This procession marks the beginning of the 31st Inaugural Lecture in a series organized by the National Open University of Nigeria, which today the university will be presenting that lecture by Professor Augustine Ukwueze, a professor of guidance and counseling here at the headquarters of the National Open University of Nigeria. And to our respected invited guests, friends, family members, gentlemen of the press, and well-wishers, this is the Vice Chancellor's procession signaling the beginning of the 31st Inaugural Lecture in the series organized by the National Open University of Nigeria, which today is under the theme Academic Counseling, a Dark Horse in Education Industry, which will be presented by Professor Augustine Ukwueze, a professor of guidance and counseling of the Department of Educational Foundation at the National Open University of Nigeria. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, with all said, I'd like to crave your indulgence, please to remain standing for the national anthem.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign fatherland.
And now the national prayer. O God of all creation, to build a nation where no man. And now the NOUN anthem. Please be seated. Respected guests, family, friends, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, on a very positive note this morning, I convey to you good morning greetings from the headquarters of the National Open University of Nigeria, where the biggest open and distance learning institution across the West African sub-region is seated in the capital of Nigeria, Abuja. Today, another historic chapter is open again, and of course, we are proud to identify with that as we key into the 31st in the series of inaugural lectures organized by the National Open University of Nigeria. It is with all sense of honor that I welcome the chairman of this all-important gathering this morning, the Vice Chancellor, and other whose watch the university has moved from leaps and bounds, and today we're all witness to all the development strides in the headquarters and the university within Nigeria. It is my pleasure that I recognize this special man under whose leadership and direction we are under, Professor Olufemi Peters, the chairman of today's occasion and the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria. So you're most welcome. I'd like to also recognize the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academics, Professor Chedu Mafiana, the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of administration, Professor Isaac Bosworth. I'd like to recognize the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of technology, innovation, and research, Professor Godwin Akpe, the Registrar of the University, Mr. Oladipo Ajayi. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to also recognize the presence of the boss of the university, Malam Nasuru Marafa, the librarian of the university, Dr. Angela Okpala. The reason we are all gathered this morning, our inaugural lecturer, a man who will be deconstructing the 31st in the series of our inaugural lecture here at the headquarters, Professor Augustine Ukwueze, a professor of guidance and counseling from the Department of Educational Foundations in the Faculty of Education here at the National Open University of Nigeria. Good morning, sir. You're welcome. I'd like to also recognize the Dean Faculty of Education and, of course, the university orator who's much seated here. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, retired but not tired, Emeritus Professor Godwin Sogolo is also here. Other very senior members of the university community who are present here, and those who are joining us online, family members of the inaugural lecturer, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Without any further ado, I would like to just roll the dice by inviting the chairman of the occasion and the Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Olufemi Peters, for his opening remark. Sir.
The principal officers of the National Open University of Nigeria, our great university, and I start with the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, Professor Isaac Bosworth, Professor Chedu Mafiana, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Registrar, Mr. Dipo Ajayi, the Bossa, Malam Nasir Marafa, the University Librarian, Dr. Angela Okpala. It's my distinguished honor to also welcome to this August lecture the deans and directors of this great university, and the various professors and heads of departments that are here present. I also particularly want to welcome to our midst the faculty that has blazed the trail in inviting us here again. That's the Dean of the Faculty of Education, Professor Ogunleye. And of course, the person on whom God has made it possible to be not only our guest speaker, but also our inaugural lecturer, Professor Augustine Ukwueze. I seize the opportunity of our presence here to welcome distinguished friends of the university and especially the family of the inaugural lecturer. You're all welcome to our university, the National Open University of Nigeria. This is where your family member has been toiling day and night in order to make a career and a profession for himself. Today is the inaugural lecture that he has chosen with the title, Academic Counseling, a Dark Horse in Education Industry. This effort is particularly necessary because it's a way of formally introducing this gentleman to the university community. It's an opportunity for him, who has toiled and labored for quite a number of years, to present his research, his teaching philosophy, and his vision for the role of the field that he has chosen himself. More in particular, it is also an avenue for his family members to know and appreciate that this man, who sometimes burn the midnight candle, has not been doing it looking at other things apart from his books. The guest speaker is from the Faculty of Education and is a professor of guidance and counseling. Therefore, I want to invite you all to expect to hear from him. Perhaps the vital role that guidance and counseling is playing in shaping the lives of many of the people in this university and outside, and the responsibility that he in particular and the colleagues in his field hold within the institution. Our university, the National Open University of Nigeria, is a very lucky university, and I used to say that the guidance and counseling has no laboratory as ready-made as our university, National Open University of Nigeria. And the reason is very simple. If their main role is to guide and shape the lives of our students, of their peers, as we go through the same journey, the fact that we have 120,000 students spread across all the centers in this country justify the fact that if it's data they are looking for, these guys will have it in abundance. So it is therefore my pleasure to invite the guest lecturer, Professor Augustine Ukwueze, to please stand up for his presentation whilst he waits for the university orator to do the justification for his presence. Thank you very much for coming.
I present the citation for Professor Augustine Ukwueze, the 31st Inaugural Lecturer. Vice Chancellor, Sir, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor and pride that I present the citation of our 31st Inaugural Lecturer, Professor Augustine Ukwueze, a professor of guidance and counseling in the Department of Educational Foundations, Faculty of Education, National Open University of Nigeria. An indigene of Enugu State, he hails from Mosigide village near Ubolafo in Udenu local government area of Enugu State, Nigeria. He finished his primary education in the mid-1970s as an underage due to the influence of his uncle, late Sir Joseph Honor, a prominent headmaster in one of the schools in his locality. After skipping 2 classes along the line, he wrote his first school leaving certificate examination. He waited for 3 solid years before writing his entrance examination into secondary school. Thereafter, he proceeded to high school for secondary education between 1977 and 1982 at Obolo High School, now St. Patrick's College, Obolo Ike, where he had 7 credit purses, including English language and mathematics, in the senior school certificate examination. Motivated by a desire for higher education, in October 1983, he gained admission into the prestigious University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, where he obtained a Bachelor of Science Education, BSc Ed degree in Geography in 1987. Shortly after his one-year mandatory National Youth Service at the State High School, Alimosho, Lagos. He enrolled into the University of Lagos for graduate studies and obtained his master's degree, M.Ed, in Guidance and Counseling in 1990. Driven by a further desire for academic excellence, he was admitted into the Ebonyi State University, Abakaliki, in 2006 for his doctorate degree in Guidance and Counseling, which he achieved in April 2010. A widely respected guidance and counseling expert, his expertise encompasses a diverse range of subjects, including educational psychology and child and learning psychology. He joined the National Open University of Nigeria, NOUN, in November 2011 as a Lecturer 1 in an academic career trajectory since he became Lecturer 1 on 29 November 2011, Senior Lecturer 1st January 2015, Associate Professor / Reader 1st January 2018, and eventually reached the pinnacle as a Professor of Guidance and Counseling in January 2021. Previously, he served in different capacities, including Center Director, Asaba Study Center, 2017 to 2019, and Substantive Head of Department, October 2020 to August 2024. Professor Ukwueze is a passionate academic par excellence, recognized for his commitment to teaching and research, as he has supervised a total of 89 projects at the postgraduate level, made up of 56 postgraduate diploma in education, PGDE, 20 M.Ed, Masters in Education, Guidance and Counseling, 1 M.Ed, Masters in Education, Educational Technology, 12 M.Ed, Masters in Education, Educational Administration and Planning, and 2 ongoing PhD theses as co-supervisor. A dynamic researcher, Professor Ukwueze has published 72 journal publications, 6 conference papers, and 8 chapters in books, both locally and internationally. His epochal work in collaborative research are Ojo, O.D., Okpateye, J., and Ukwueze, A.C., 2013, an expository study of quality assurance practices in the single and dual mode distance learning institutions in Nigeria, sponsored by the Commonwealth of Learning, COLE, and Osuji, USA, Ukwueze, A.C., and Okparaduru, J.O., 2023, evaluation of existing career counseling services in secondary education sector for sustainable human capital development in Southeast Nigeria, sponsored by the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TED Fund. Professor Ukwueze's commitment to community service is evident through his membership of many learned societies, which include the prestigious Nigerian Academy of Education, NAE. In addition, he belongs to the Open and Distance and E-Learning Association of Nigeria, ODILAN. He is a member of the Association of Child and Learning Psychologists, ACLP. He has also been a member of the Counseling Association of Nigeria, CASN, for more than 2 decades. Professor Ukwueze is a registered teacher with the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, TRCN. Back home, he served as the chairman of Umprogu Youth Association, NYA, an association that was formed in August 1992 at his instance as a young graduate from 1996 to 2021, when he voluntarily resigned after 25 years of unblemished service. This association was instrumental to the provision of electricity to the entire Umo Sigide village. Professor Ukwueze is also the current chairman of Umo Sigide Development Association, UDA. Professor Ukwueze is happily married to Mrs. Sabina Uchenna Ukwueze and blessed with 6 children, divinely batched equally in the two genders, 3 boys and 3 girls. Vice Chancellor, sir, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is with immense pleasure that I now invite you to warmly welcome our inaugural lecturer for the 31st Inaugural Lecture of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Augustine Ukwueze, as he delivers his inaugural lecture titled, Academic Counseling, a Dark Horse in Education Industry. I now invite the Vice Chancellor to please invite the inaugural lecturer to the podium. The Vice Chancellor, sir.
I actually thought I had invited him to, but you know, when I'm directed to, I have to follow the direction. So it's indeed my distinguished honor to invite the inaugural lecturer, the 31st in the series of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Augustine Ukwueze, to present his lecture to us.
The Vice Chancellor and Chairman of this occasion, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration, the Deputy Vice Chancellor TIR, the Registrar, the University Librarian, the Bursar, Deans and Directors, distinguished senior colleagues here present, heads of department, members of the university community, invited guests, friends, relatives, and well-wishers, students, members of the fourth realm, the mass media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I wish most humbly to welcome all of you, as I feel greatly honored and respectfully elated by the university management to stand before you and deliver the 31st inaugural lecture of the National Open University of Nigeria, Abuja, the largest university in the West African sub-region, under the able leadership of Professor Olufemi Peters, a distinguished chemist by all standards. The Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, before I move into the nitty-gritty of this exercise, I wish to refresh our political memory by going back to 47 years ago. In 1978, to be specific, the then military head of state, through the Supreme Military Council, SMC, and that's General Olusegun Obasanjo, lifted the ban on political parties. Shortly after that, groups started to emerge. In the end, 5 political parties emerged, and they were registered to contest for the 1979 general elections that were conducted in August 1979. I don't know how many of us here that were born then. The parties are the Nigerian People's Party, NPP, the National Party of Nigeria, NPN, the Unity Party of Nigeria, UPN, the Great Nigerian People's Party, GNPP, and the People's Redemption Party, PRP. Shortly after that, the parties went into action and elected their leaders. Primary elections were conducted. The flag bearers emerged. For the Unity Party of Nigeria, sorry, I'm not following it alphabetically. For the Unity Party of Nigeria, one of the greatest politicians in Nigeria, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Pa Awo, emerged as the standard bearer for the party. For the Nigerian People's Party, Chief Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the Owolo of Onitsha, emerged as the presidential candidate. For the People's Redemption Party, Alhaji Aminu Kano emerged as the standard bearer. For the Great Nigerian People's Party, Alhaji Waziri Ibrahim was elected as the presidential candidate. That Waziri was always preaching politics without bitterness. Then, Great Nigerian People's Party produced Alhaji Ibrahim Waziri. Sorry, Aminu Kano was the man that was always preaching redemption, redemption, redemption. Why Waziri was preaching politics without bitterness. Sorry about that mix-up. Then, the parties, Shehu Shagari emerged for the National Party of Nigeria. But one striking thing here is that Alhaji Shehu Shagari, from nowhere, during the primary elections, he was able to emerge, beating people like Chief Adisa Akinloye from the south, Chief Edwin Umezoke, before he now, cross-carpeted. He also was able to beat, here in the north, he was able to beat Issa Sule, Umaru Diko, and a lot of others, including the big man at Ilore, Chief Olushola Saraki. You remember, Shagari was then described as a grade 2 teacher or an NCE graduate, yet he emerged. They went to the polls in August 1979, and he defeated Chief Obafemi Awolowo. He defeated Chief Nnamdi Azikiwe. These two men fought for the independence of this country. But he emerged from nowhere as a dark horse of Nigerian politics and conquered the known competitors. Preamble. This lecture is a concise package of discourse as a counselor and as a teacher, but more of this former. Following the footsteps of two philosophical giants in the world. In the words of one of them, and that is Socrates, he said, and I quote, "I cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make him or her to think." Similarly, Plato said, and I quote, "Do not train children to learn by force or harshness, but direct them to it by what amuses their minds, so that you may be better able to discover with accuracy the peculiar bent of the genius of each." Once again, it is my great honor and privilege to stand before you this day, 27th February 2025, to deliver this 31st inaugural lecture of the National Open University of Nigeria, Abuja, entitled Academic Counseling, a Dark Horse in the Education Industry. This is the 8th inaugural lecture series from the Faculty of Education, and the 6th from the Department of Educational Foundations, the largest department in the university, with about 20 serving professors. The chairman, sir, ladies and gentlemen, I am not here to bamboozle anyone with quotations, grammar, or technical jargons of knowledge acquisition and dissemination, but to inform you of the position of academic counseling in the education sector in Nigeria. Thus, I have some interests, but worried and challenged by a mirage of contemporary issues that are quite copious and discouraging. My worries are many and varied. First, in teaching and learning institutions, people usually feel that anybody can be a counselor and that counseling can take place anywhere. Teachers and administrators do not even see counselors as specially trained individuals or professionals, but ordinary colleagues in the school system. I had the opportunity to go through the curriculum vitae of someone, and I was amazed to see where he wrote that he was serving as an academic counselor somewhere. This individual has no background in counseling. What an aberration. There is a great difference between an advisor and a counselor. Secondly, some counselors themselves need counseling. I hope those of us who are here are listening. As they often make caricature of themselves and their professional responsibilities. Today, no counselor wants to be addressed as a guidance counselor, but as a counseling psychologist. Some are even confused about the right nomenclature that they should apply to themselves. I was surprised and happy when I visited Professor Helen Kwanashi. He was not there. I saw on her door, Professor of Pharmacology and Guidance Counselor. Boldly written. She's a pharmacologist. But she wrote that. But those of us who are even counselor educators will feel shy to tell the people that we are guidance counselors. Furthermore, academic counseling has been badly abused and relegated to the background by competing multiple rivals like vocational, social, and psychological counseling. Most recently, marital counseling by both professionals and religious leaders also emerged. Another sphere of my worry is that since counseling is largely a process that involves more talking than practical actions, a counselor may be manipulated, fooled, cajoled, or looked down on by highly gifted individuals or learners in verbal ability and reasoning skills, the same way that some administrators who are non-professionals and ignorant of the benefits of counseling usually do. Sir, such people often argue at random and unabated to buttress their unfounded points, and in the end may poison the minds of unsuspecting individuals about counseling in society. As a result, there should be a greater awareness and significant change of mindsets about the concept of counseling and its copious position in the school system. Introduction. In the past, students lacked the courage to meet professional counselors who are available to discuss their academic problems. Many of them prefer to discuss such issues with their friends to seeing a professional. Today, the scenario is, however, changing. Some of the students with challenges in their studies now consult the academic counselors to sort out some problems concerning educational information, choice of courses, choice of subjects through subject combinations, study habits, and examination matters. Unarguably, this is an avenue to assist students in making informed educational choices in order to achieve maximum educational growth and development according to their potentialities. All they need is how to get the educational requirements to be where they want. This is where academic counseling copiously takes the front seat. Education is a process of equipping an individual with the required knowledge and skills to develop himself or herself. No wonder the national policy on education describes that as an exercise of what is said, excellence. Sir, the main purpose of this inaugural lecture is to highlight the growth and relevance of academic counseling, which was hitherto unknown, but later became the cynosure of all eyes in the education industry. Thus, as a professor of guidance and counseling with special interest in academic counseling, I wish to present my research activities in guidance and counseling with special emphasis on academic counseling. It is reasoned that at the end of this inaugural lecture, we should be able to appreciate academic counseling as a pivotal force in learner support services and as the most powerful tool for moving the education sector forward. We shall also appreciate the need to embrace and accord academic counseling its rightful place in the Committee of Educational Services. We are all aware of the dwindling fortunes in the education industry due to incessant mass failure of young Nigerians in public examinations. In most cases, examinations at the secondary and tertiary levels of education are marred by irregularities of various forms and magnitude. It is by strong conviction that these academic irregularities in the education sector will cease to be when academic counseling is rightly positioned, and students will enjoy their studies and write examinations with a lot of confidence. I am aware that an inaugural lecture is an avenue for an academic to inform the global community of his or her area of interest or specialization and to demonstrate his or her contributions to that discipline. This inaugural lecture, therefore, will no doubt showcase my studies in academic counseling. It is my wish to clarify some concepts that I have used in this lecture. First is guidance and counseling. Guidance and counseling is a twin concept that is often confused and addressed as one variable, but can conveniently be separated into two distinct entities. Guidance is an act of giving information to people in order to gain knowledge about what they wish to know. Counseling, on the other hand, is a psychological process that involves a client and a professional in solving a disturbing problem to the client in order to adjust meaningfully and excel in his or her activities in life. The second concept is academic counseling. Academic counseling is any form of academic assistance given to a learner in order to excel in his or her academic activities. It is a help that is provided by a counselor to a learner in relation to educational matters. In particular, academic counseling is the core of school counseling, where learners are guided to engage in the process of learning to learn. Learning to learn requires conscious attention to engage in self-reflection and willingness to study in different situations. Osuji, 2022, asserted during the 20th Inaugural Lecture Series of this great university that the process of learning to learn is the utilization of cognitive and affective factors, which are essentially useful in guiding students' learning and their lives, both at school and beyond. There are no other counseling services that can do this except academic counseling. The third concept that I wish to explain here is the dark horse. Yes, everybody has one asking, why dark horse? The first reference to the concept of dark horse was made in a novel entitled The Young Duke, which was written in 1831 by Benjamin Disraeli. In the novel, the author described how a dark horse used by the Duke of St. James in a horse race competition pulled a surprise by rushing past all the colorful horses lined up for the competition and reached the grandstand in a sweeping triumph. The unexpected, which was never observed in the list, eventually became the champion. The term, which started in a horse race palace, has significantly spread to several spheres of human endeavors. Thus, a dark horse is metaphorically seen as a person who does not tell other people much about himself, but surprises them with his interesting qualities that are often used to outshine others in a competing activity. Finally, a dark horse is an unknown person or event that emerges to prominence in a particular situation. This usually happens in a competition that involves multiple rivals, where a winner, who on paper was unlikely to succeed and then emerged up after all odds. For illustration, the concept of dark horse came to the United States of America in the 19th century. This was when James K. Polk, who was relatively unknown in Tennessee, won the Democratic Party's presidential nomination in 1844 and went ahead to win the presidential election as the 11th president of America. Similarly, Barack Obama was a junior senator and little known from Illinois. He was not even popular outside his constituency. However, in 2008, he outsmarted the highly favored Hillary Clinton to pick the Democratic Party's presidential ticket. Eventually won the presidential election as the first African American to occupy the seat in the White House. It is reasoned in this presentation that academic counseling entered into a race with multiple rivals, like the counseling services I have mentioned earlier on, and some other education services, such as library, ICT, EduTech, and so on and so forth. Emphasis was more, for instance in counseling, emphasis was more on vocational or career counseling to assist students in choosing befitting careers for their future in order to provide enough manpower for the economy. We may wait a little and see what happened on the long run and what is happening right now. Education is the fourth concept. Education is a formalized and institutionalized instruction given to individuals so that they can acquire the relevant and needed skills and knowledge that are useful to themselves and on the long run contribute meaningfully to the development of the society. In all, education is a powerful tool that instills in the young and the old some values that are very necessary in life, such as equity, tolerance, peace, and civic principles. Next is education industry. We all know that an industry is simply seen as an economic or a social activity that processes raw materials to produce goods and services. Education industry is simply explained in this inaugural lecture as any form of organized or formal setting for the purpose of imparting knowledge to people in order to produce both skilled and unskilled manpower for the education of the nation. We are all here as products of education. We have teachers, we have lawyers, we have medical doctors, we have engineers, we have pharmacists. These are all products of education as an industry. Education delivers essential services like teaching, learning, counseling, and information to the public. As an industry, there should be quality service delivery, adequate funding mechanism, staff management system, and customer management system in education. The academic counselor is deeply involved and cannot be ignored in the latter, that is customer. And who are our customers? Students. So we have to be involved in the management of the students. Here, the services need to be student-centered, where students are connected, supported, and valued to ensure impactful academic and personal living. Let's go briefly to the history of guidance and counseling. A short voyage into the historical evolution of guidance and counseling reveals that in the beginning, counseling started in the ancient times when the religious leaders and philosophers were giving advices or pieces of advice to people who approached them for their services. It is on record that modern guidance and counseling started in the United States of America as a vocational movement in 1908 by Frank Parsons. As stated, several historical events led to the emergence of guidance and counseling in America. Ojo and Ogidon in 2006 enumerated so many of those movements that led to the emergence of guidance and counseling. Such movements include the vocational guidance movement of 1908, the standardized test movement, pro-counseling legislative acts such as the Vocational Education Act of 1917 and the Vocational Rehabilitation Act of 1920, among others. Back home in Nigeria, guidance and counseling started as a traditional means of assisting individuals in difficulties through divination and words of advice by the elders, religious leaders, teachers, and other respected civil servants. However, modern guidance and counseling started with vocational counseling, like in America, at Ibadan, by the Reverend Sisters of St. Teresa's College, Ayetoro, Ibadan, Southwest Nigeria, in 1959. This became necessary when the Reverend Sisters wanted to expose their final year students to various careers that they could pursue in higher institution. The quest for guidance and counseling started growing and attracting the attention of stakeholders in education from the success story of the vocational guidance efforts at the St. Teresa's College, Ayetoro. In 1961, the federal government appointed Dr. C.L. Berepiki as the vocational guidance officer at the Federal Ministry of Education. In 1962, the Ibadan Career Council was established. In 1969, the National Curriculum Conference, which was organized amidst the Nigerian Civil War of 1967 to 1970, ushered in a range of recommendations in her communique. This gave birth to the first edition of the National Policy on Education in 1977, where the need for the appointment of career officers and counselors in post-primary schools was made to cater for the ignorance of students about careers and also their personality maladjustment. Take note that career counseling is still absent in this case. On the 15th of November 1975, the idea about forming a formidable and a more embracing association known as the Counseling Association of Nigeria came to fruition. The University of Ibadan established the first department of guidance and counseling in 1975, and in 1982, the University of Ilorin followed suit. It is important to remind all of us here that guidance and counseling has become an important thing in Nigerian education. Today, it is a profession that you can practice, earn your money, and it is legalized. In 2022, a bill was before the National Assembly, and this gazette was produced. In other words, guidance and counseling became gazetted as per work as 2022. Today, it is called the Counseling Practitioner Council of Nigeria. So if you're a counselor here, if you're a student counselor, and then anyone you tell yourself, please take note that you have a document backing up your profession. You are a professional. Career counseling. The career counseling is otherwise referred to as a vocational counseling. I'm saying this because there are other services, other counseling services, and I've mentioned career counseling. We have psychosocial counseling, rehabilitation counseling, marital counseling. These are areas that you can confidently fit in as a counselor. Justification for academic counseling. There is no gainsaying that the Nigerian education is in a mess today because of varying variables. The neglect of academic counseling is one of them. Emphasis has often been laid on character formation and value orientation due to increasing waves of criminality in the country. This has been via psychological counseling, which unfortunately has yielded little or no results. Bandits and kidnappers are everywhere because such people were not informed of the benefits of education as early as possible. Unfortunately, the academic performance of students also in both private and public schools in Nigeria has been a thing of great concern. To achieve a better result, academic counseling is usually provided as a form of assistance given to learners in order to successfully develop their capabilities and potentials, which will enable them to engage in academic activities and achieve better academic performance in schools. Talking of performance of students, if we look at table 1, ICT, a cursory look at the performance of students in the West African Senior School Certificate Examination, WASE, for the past 34 years is there on the board. You can see from 1991 to 2024, the performance of students in WASE. At the beginning, it was rough. But with counseling, especially academic counseling, the whole thing has started to change. You can also agree with me that today, with the presence of academic counseling, many universities are turning out first-class graduates, brilliant students, left and right. From the table, it could be seen that there was a consistent improvement in students' performance since 2010. In addition, with the quantum and significant improvements on the WASE between 2016 and now, as shown on table 1, it could be concluded that academic counseling has come to stay. This has been through individualized and group counseling, mentorship, direct teaching, referral services, and remedial services. If we look at the second table also, we are going to see the performance of students in NECO from 2000, when NECO started, to the present day. From tables 1 and 2, it could be seen that for the past 6 years, students' performance did not fall below 60%. This is a huge credit to all the stakeholders at the secondary school level. In particular, kudos to the students, teachers, and the school counselors. My studies in academic counseling. The Vice Chancellor, sir, my journey into the field of guidance and counseling was driven by my quest to contribute meaningfully towards the achievement of quality education in Nigeria. Thus, I sought to focus on how to improve learning and ensure better academic performance of students in the educational institutions. Studies in academic counseling entailed research activities aimed at evaluating the efficacy of guidance and counseling. As earlier stated, my main interest is to inform the audience of the huge benefits of academic counseling as the pillar of Nigerian education. As a matter of fact, My special interest in academic counseling began at the Command Secondary School, a boarding school at Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, where I doubled as a geography teacher and a school counselor. Here, I observed that students who were close to me as their guardian, and often with varying academic questions, even in science subjects where I am a novice, often came with good results at the end of each term to show me with great joy. Shortly after the resumption of the 2004-2005 academic session, I became more interested as I saw some young children who were newly admitted into the junior secondary school 1 crying after their first controls assessment. Why were they crying? They were not happy. They were not well adjusted. I had to swing into action. I wanted to know more, and in the process, I decided to launch my first research into learner variables of academic performance and adjustment of junior secondary schools, which was published in the Counselor, an official journal of the Council Association of Nigeria, CASON, in 2007. The study discovered that study behaviors as manifested in proper programming and planning of private study timetable, formation of good study groups, and carrying out class assignments and homework readily contribute majorly to academic performance of students. In another study, it was discovered how counselors can apply academic counseling to improve students' learning outcomes. The study was carried out to ascertain the efficacy of cognitive restructuring. Cognitive restructuring is a counseling strategy that is very effective, as was discovered. This study was carried out in Ebonyi State also. Also, a study was conducted to show the efficacy of cognitive counseling on the effectiveness of students' use of their own personal time. Cognitive counseling enables counselors to explain to students the reasons for engaging in appropriate study behaviors. In another related study, it was confirmed that cognitive counseling is quite suitable in the teaching and learning of introductory technology. This time around, I went to specific subjects. Even in geography, it was also discovered that cognitive counseling and guided study could be used to improve students' performance in geography. In another study, which was conducted to ascertain the counseling intervention strategies for learning difficulties in secondary schools, it was observed that students with learning difficulties should be treated using life skill therapy, transactional analysis, mentoring, collaborative learning technique, modeling, cognitive restructuring, functional-based approach, individualized counseling, and career awareness techniques. The counselors here know what I am saying. A follow-up study was also carried out on the effects of cognitive and modeling techniques of counseling on students' study behaviors and academic performance. It showed a significant interaction effect of the two techniques of counseling on students' study behaviors and academic performance. That was the result. Also, a study was conducted to determine the effect of guided study behavior and modeling techniques of counseling. This also showed that the two things can be used to improve on the academic performance of students. A short while ago, we saw the performance of students in the senior school certificate examinations conducted by WAEC and NECO. It was discovered that the disparity between the results, because a child will write WAEC now, and maybe in a few weeks' time, he will write NECO. Somebody who performed well in WAEC will fail NECO. Why? There are reasons for that, as was discovered. One, students do not revise their books after the WAEC exams. Students become tired and exhausted after WASE. Enough time is not given to students for revision after WASE, and several other reasons. I also explored the need for using academic counseling to assist students on the epistemological beliefs and better cognitive awareness in schools to ensure excellent performance in learning activities and outcomes. This was to ensure that students could make meaning out of school, understand their intentions to learn, interpret their learning in the context of knowledge traditions, be aware of their negative thoughts that affect their studies, and to be aware of the need to plan, monitor, and evaluate their studies. In another study, which was on the effect of dysgraphia on students' performance in examinations, it was discovered, we all know, bad handwriting is a terrible thing in education. We discovered that people with bad handwriting don't normally perform well in exams. It is not that they don't know, but examiners may not understand their writing and will just award marks. We also studied with operadro, we studied inappropriate behaviors of pupils in primary schools, and we saw how inappropriate behaviors affect children's academic performance. A kind of transition from secondary school to tertiary level, especially in ODL system. We tried to see how we can use counseling to improve students' learning. We discovered that e-counseling works very well for students in open and distance learning. Having established the benefit of integrating ICT into counseling, we also examined the availability and utilization of e-counseling platforms for quality distance learning in the National Open University of Nigeria. We discovered that in most cases, the student counselors use only WhatsApp and SMS to communicate to students. Recently, they are using email. Similarly, there was an exploration of the academic counseling strategies for students with learning disabilities in ODL institutions. Many strategies were recommended, such as confrontation strategy, individualized, mentoring, remedial, assertive training, and so on and so forth. There is no doubt that the digital world has exposed people into different learning events through social networks. Unfortunately, there are compulsive users and addictive users. How do we manage the two groups? We can only manage them using counseling. However, there are threats to effective academic counseling. The beginning was very rough. In my preamble, I stated that academic counseling is bedeviled with several challenges. A few of these were mentioned. One of the threats is the conflicting roles of the study centers and the study centers between student counselors and the registrar staff. This, I'm happy, the Vice Chancellor is handling this effectively, and kudos to him. In addition, several universities are still living in the past when it comes to the issue of counseling and learner support services. This is very important, and this is where the Vice Chancellor has also done a marvelous job. In several universities, the Vice Chancellors and their wives, or the Vice Chancellors and their husbands, are the admission officers. They conduct admission, they select people, students, in their offices and at home. But here, in the National Open University of Nigeria, counselors are given that responsibility to select people for admission. Kudos to now. My heart was gladdened 7 days ago when the Vice Chancellor told us that the issue of learner support service, that he has replaced that with Directorate of Counseling. This is marvelous. I was happy. That is to say that in now, counseling has come to stay, and counseling has become something good. However, sir, I would suggest, sir, instead of just counseling, Directorate of Counseling and is it career development, as it was said by TED Fund, let it be simply be known as Directorate of Counseling Services. I don't want to go into career development because that one is a full lecture of its own. We observed some inadequacies in some areas. Iko Tunye and I observed that in some schools, even here, student counselors share offices. This is not good enough. Although the present leadership is addressing that. When I was at Asaba, counselors were sharing offices. I said, no, I'm a counselor. It cannot happen under my leadership. I separated Mrs. Ukwueze and Dr. Lawan. If you put two counselors in an office, where is the confidentiality? Students will not be bold enough to see any of them for counseling. And that is why we always agitate for separate offices for counselors. Why is academic counseling a dark horse in the education industry. The Vice Chancellor, sir, it is my wish here to state one or two reasons based on my discussion so far why academic counseling from nowhere has become a dark horse in the education industry. Academic counseling emerged and entered into a competition of who should take care of the education of the child better than others. These others, like I said earlier on, the other counseling services like vocational counseling, psychosocial counseling, and then we have the library, the ICT. The library and the ICT, they are all education services. You can produce and assemble ICT tools without being guided. The student will not know how to use them to learn and acquire something. In the same vein, if you like, assemble all the books in the world without being guided, the students will not know how to go about it. So this is to tell you that guidance and counseling or academic counseling is an important thing here, and it has taken over. All others depend on him. It was even stated by Barra that career counseling is now an aspect of academic counseling. The neglect started a long time ago, because in the National Policy of Education, Section 11, subsection 101J, they said, in view of the apparent ignorance of many young people about career prospects, and in view of personality maladjustment among school children, careers officers and counselors shall be appointed in post-primary institutions. Rubbish. Rubbish. It is evident from the above that in the beginning, there was no mention about academic counseling. The emphasis was on vocational counseling alone. These days, from whom a child of 4 will tell you what he or she will be. I want to be a medical doctor. As a parent, you guide the person. What will the counselor in the school do? Check out the interest anyway, his abilities, and other values. But as an academic counselor, you will tell him, you want to be a medical doctor. Yes, these are the subjects, and these are the ways you are going to study to make sure that you pass your JAM, pass your work and pass your JAM, and pursue whatever you want to pursue in life. Today, many people who are accountants, they are now skilled information officers. Many people who are medical doctors, they have deviated. Why? Because they were not guided properly. They were not told what to do. But with academic counseling, they will always be informed properly. The Vice Chancellor, sir, in order to conclude my lecture, let it be known that academic counseling enables students to learn to do the right thing to achieve the right result. Through academic counseling, holistic and relevant education will be provided to the citizenry to ensure high productivity of any economy. There is gender instruction or intrusion in counseling. Male students respond to cognitive counseling more than the female students. The female students prefer mentoring and modeling. Students find it difficult to attend both virtual and physical lectures due to one business trip or the others. It's unfortunate. Many young adults now leverage on the flexibility of open and distance education to combine their studies with fake life. Bookshops are gradually folding in several university towns as many academics no longer publish books for lack of readers. Recommendations. With the full license granted to counseling practices and practitioners, which was signed into law in 2023, there should be a full-fledged agency or commission under the supervision of the Federal Ministry of Education. This should be known as National Commission for Guidance and Counseling Services. There should be grassroots academic counseling activities with professionals at the primary school level to inculcate good reading and learning culture at the early stage of life. The National Universities Commission should have a Directorate of Guidance and Counseling Services to be headed by a professional counselor of at least Assistant Director cadre. Nigerian University should establish the Directorate of Counseling Services and collapsed the so-called student affairs unit into counseling services. What are they doing in the student affairs? I was amazed. I went there. They gave me gown. What are the other functions? They say student affairs. Am I a student? That office shouldn't exist in any university. That should be taken over by the Guidance and Counseling Services Directorate. A state of emergency should be declared by the federal government on guidance and counseling in schools. There is also the need for a legislation at the federal level to compel every school in Nigeria to establish guidance and counseling. There should be a mandatory establishment of the Young Readers Club with reasonable incentives to the members in every school to encourage the practice of self-learning as stated in national policy on education. Finally, a word or two for my professionals could surface here. The experts in personal social counseling should buckle up and re-strategize to stem the ties of kidnapping, banditry, and other forms of insecurity in Nigeria. Those in career counseling have a lot to do in order to checkmate the rising unemployment rate occasioned by wrong choice of careers. In rehabilitation counseling, efforts should be intensified to ensure proper adjustment of ex-convicts, drug addicts, and internally displaced persons. In marital counseling, efforts should be made to checkmate the ongoing and the incessant increase in marital instability. Virtually every marriage in every urban center is sick in Nigeria today. For those of us in academic counseling, our greatest challenge is examination malpractice. This is a serious issue, and it is like a chain. The Minister of Education will call the agencies, the school boards, and tell them that please, your schools should do well. The school boss will call the school principals. If you don't do well, we are going to punish you. The school principals will now call the teachers. Please, I don't want to be punished by the school board. These students must do well in WAEC. The teachers will now call the students. You must do something. Otherwise, nobody will assist you, and we want you to pass. The students will go home and tell their parents, our teacher said that we should contribute money. You see the chain. And that is why it is lingering. We have to do something. We have to do something to checkmate this. The Vice Chancellor, sir, as I'm standing here, there are people right from God that made it possible for me to stand here, and I want to acknowledge them. May I humbly, first and foremost, acknowledge the unseen hands of the Almighty God in guiding and protecting me in this stage of my life and career. Based on my humble and rugged beginning, what will have been my condition today, if not God? My thanks also go to my late parents, Mr. and Mrs. Joseph Ukwueze. My worry here is that my father, who laid the foundation of this giant building through his words of blessing, is not here to witness what is happening today. Secondly, my mother, who completed the giant building, is also unavoidably absent due to the wicked hands of God. May their souls rest in peace. I wish to appreciate the Vice Chancellor, Professor Lufemi Peters, the Senate, and the University Management for giving me a nod for this solemn exercise. In particular, I must appreciate in a special way the Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor Chedo Mafiana, who talked me into believing that I could present this inaugural lecture at this moment. Sir, I want to appreciate your belief in me. Apart from choosing the date for me, he gave all the necessary assistance and encouragement to ensure the success of the exercise. No wonder he is most respectfully, popularly, and fondly referred to as Godfather. May I also appreciate the deans, directors, and heads of department for their unalloyed support. In particular, I most sincerely appreciate the dean of my faculty, the Faculty of Education, Professor B.O. Ogunleye, for his immense contributions towards the success of this inaugural lecture. I am also indebted to my head of department, Dr. Gabriel Job, for allowing me to take my time to prepare for this lecture. There are people that made my work to be easy as the head of the Department of Education Foundations. There are many, and they are here as encapsulated in this paragraph. All I can say here, for want of time, is that I thank you all for your wonderful support during the 54-month reign. Let me also appreciate my other fellow counselors, such as Professor Biaya Jufo, Professor Fidel Lukopi, Professor Chinwe Homa, Dr. Angela Abba, Dr. Ibrahim Adediro, Dr. Shukwoba Midele, Dr. Jide Oyadei, and others. You are wonderful counselors. In a special way, I wish to thank Professor Eyonya, Professor Joy Isi, Professor Neba Tanglak, Professor MC Anekwe, Professor Adakolo Ikwe, Dr. Miriam Okadioha, Dr. Akim Liaiti, Dr. Bala Wazri, Dr. Jamiu Otto, among others, for their wonderful support for this exercise. In a special way too, let me also appreciate the duo of Dr. Johnson Okwataye and Professor Funke Akwata. We started this journey together in November 2011. Professor Gandiat Additional Utman, I hail you for your insistence that this inaugural lecture should not be delayed. Thank you for your copious encouragement and support. Professor A.G. Suleiman and Professor A.A. Kolawele, your kind words are always appreciated. Let me also acknowledge my PhD supervisor, Professor Silas E. Omebe of Ebonyi State University, Abakaleke, who made it possible for me to finish my work at the right time. He specifically warned me not to delay any student or students assigned to me for supervision. Sir, I am following this instruction nicodemously. May I also appreciate his wife, Professor Chinyere Omebe, Professor Sondago, late Professor Hilary Ogbu, and late Professor Emeritus Joseph A. Ijere. I appreciate you all for your great impact on my academic life. At this juncture, I equally wish to acknowledge my late uncle and great man, Sir Joseph Ona, who was the headmaster of the primary school in my village when I was growing up. I was not surprised. I was subjected to the physical set of tests using your right hand to cross your head, to touch your ear, as it was the practice in those days, simply because of this man's presence. And that's why I was able to finish my primary school early enough, courtesy of Sir Joseph Ona. But his soul rest in peace. Similarly, the support of his wife, late Lady Teresa Ona, was massive throughout my secondary education and beyond. May their souls also rest in perfect peace. Also worthy of my appreciation is Sir Luke Nwachukwu Ona. His assistance in part 1 in 1984 and part 4 in 1987 will always remain fresh in my memory. May God continue to bless him and his wonderful family. This man was very wonderful, and he's ably represented here today by his son, Barrister Nnamdi Nwachukwu. Please, Barrister Nwachukwu, kindly stand up for recognition and wave to them. He's here with his amiable wife. Yes, thank you very much. And tell your father that I will always continue to be grateful. I must also appreciate one of my bosom friends, Mr. Patrick O. Ugu, retired school principal. He was the one that gave me 20 naira in those days to buy my jam form. I cannot get exhausted without acknowledging my students. My students who are here, kindly stand up for recognition and wave. Students, yeah, I can see. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. I wish to also recognize Dr. Titus Ezeme. Dr. Ezeme is the provost of Federal College of Education in Umuahia. He came all the way from Umuahia to grace this occasion. Dr. Ezeme, kindly stand up for recognition. Yeah. You're welcome. I love the love. In a special way too, I recognize others like Chief Zeletus Ugwai. I saw him a short while ago. I also recognize Romanus Odo. Stand up for recognition. He's my mentee and very wonderful, a wonderful mentee. Yes, you're welcome, sir. Others are also here or on their way. We have Mr. Geoffrey Sunday Eze, MNI. Geoffrey, have you come? If you are here, please stand up for recognition. He called me a short while ago that he was on his way. He's still on his way. In a special way too, but I appreciate my siblings. Let Mrs. Ukwueze Eya, ne Ukwueze. Let Mr. Matthew Ukwueze, Mr. Godfrey Ukwueze, and Mrs. Chinasa Eze, ne Ukwueze. Godfrey is live here. And then stand up, Godfrey, for recognition. Yes. There is no money in the family, so don't look at him again. Finally, I wish to most specially appreciate my humble, lovely, tall, and beautiful wife, Mrs. Sabina Uchenna Ukwueze, for her wonderful support in the filing. Oyo, kindly stand up for recognition. Black is beautiful. When Mrs. C.O. Atonda, the principal of State High School at Limosho, Lagos, where I did my national youth service in 1988, wished me a mother as a wife during the Stanford party organized in my honor, little did I know, or little did I realize, that the woman meant good for me. Her prayer is working. Let me also appreciate our lovely children, Chinedu Kizito Ukwueze, Joel Okechukwu Ukwueze, Chimobi Augustine Ukwueze, Chinwekere Marian Ukwueze, Chidebe Matapriska Ukwueze, and Uchechi Francis Ukwueze. The boys are here represented by Chimobi Augustine Ukwueze. Chimobi, kindly stand up for them to see you. He's a 300 level computer science. Then the girls are represented here by Jane Francis Ukwueze. Uchechi, kindly stand up for recognition. Yes. That one has promised me that she will wound jump come this April for me. The Vice Chancellor, sir, as Jesus said, it is finished. Thank you very much for listening.
Please kindly sit down. Thank you very much.
Sir, may I humbly hand over my inaugural lecture to you, sir.
Yes, distinguished audience, we've just gone through some very light but extremely useful rendition of what academic counselor is. I would not want to take I wouldn't want to take many issues with him. Yes, except to say that first, is it really a dark horse of the? Because the way you painted it is no longer a dark horse. It's in fact the main horse that is driving student performance. Yes, please give me a round of applause, please. And quite rightly so, actually, because counseling is a very, very important part of our social and economic life. And without it, perhaps many students would have had to drop by the wayside. And I think it is that importance that has advised the TED Fund to advise all universities to have a directorate of career counseling and career development, for which our university has rightly obliged. And also, for those of you who are here who may not know, our university employs the largest number of counselors in the country. And the reason is obvious, because of our spread and because of our delivery, most especially our delivery. Our students need people that will guide them, not just in passing exams, like Prof. Ukwueze will want us to believe, but also on other issues that affects their performance. And that's why I said I wouldn't want to take him on that. But the icing on the cake for me is the fact that he made allusion to somebody I want to joke about here, who says that one of the issues is about handwriting. I wanted to say that Haji Issa should have noted that remark, that it affects students' performance. And it actually, indeed, because if you don't have the patience to read, you probably wouldn't have. I'm also glad to hear from him the fact that the NOUN has moved to the EAT platform for our counseling. And I think it shows the movement of our time. And we want to thank the faculty. There is a charge I want to make when I discuss with the DVC academic, and that is, we have a number of professors in that department and in that profession, but we don't run an undergraduate degree. Or do we? No. But I still don't think we should, actually. And I think we should just concentrate on postgraduate, where research will be able to counsel, provide more avenues for those who are practicing it to be able to do that. And I hope the DVC academic and registrar will note this at next presentation. All in all, we want to thank the inaugural lecturer for clarifying various issues, part of which is identification they themselves don't know. The issue of academic counseling, psychological counseling, and all the like. But for all of us who are here, who is not a counselor, I want to ask. Who? A teacher is a counselor. And I rest my case for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor. This has brought us very close to the end of our business here today. But before we depart from this hall, on behalf of the Faculty of Education, the Dean Faculty of Education would want to make an official presentation to our inaugural lecturer.
The Vice Chancellor, other principal officers here present, deans and directors, emeritus professor, sir, and colleagues in the academia. It is my pleasure, on behalf of the entirety of the Faculty of Education of this great institution, the National Open University of Nigeria, to make this presentation on the successful presentation of this inaugural lecture to no other person but our own professor, Augustine Ukwueze. This is the 31st in the series of inaugural lectures in this university. And like he mentioned, it is the 8th in the Faculty of Education. The faculty is grateful for doing us proud and for representing us quite very well at this occasion. And so, I present to you this plaque on behalf of the faculty. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, Dean, Faculty of Education, and great thanks to our inaugural lecturer. As we begin to wind, I'd like to invite the Deputy Vice Chancellor in charge of academics, Professor Chiedu Mafiana, for a vote of thanks.
On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, I'd like to congratulate Professor Ukwueze for this inaugural lecture. Congratulate the family of Ukwueze. I note, sir, and I'm happy to see that your wife is taller than you. Even if it's by half an inch. Right. Our distinguished members of Senate, we want to thank you for this massive support. In particular, the Faculty of Education. I can see that virtually all of you are here. We will need to see whether you come at the next inaugural lecture. So congratulations. The relatives of our brother, we thank you for coming from far and near to grace this occasion, and his students who are here. The young man and woman representing I think there are 6 children. Yes. We thank you for coming. And on no account shall we hear that you are not properly counseled, because that is your family. Once again, for all the audience, we thank you for gracing this occasion. Vice Chancellor, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, Professor Chiedu Mafiana. I'd like to also extend our thanks to the Vice Chancellor for making the inaugural lecture consistent and regular by the provision of enabling atmosphere. On that note, we've come to the end of proceedings here. As I crave your indulgence, so please rise for the NOUN anthem. We'll still beg for you to remain standing as the Vice Chancellor procession takes its leave. As the Vice Chancellor's procession takes its leave in a reverse order. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you from this end for being part of history, and we want to thank you for being part or a witness to this 31st inaugural lecture, which was deconstructed today by Professor Augustine Ukwueze. On behalf of the management and staff of the National Open University of Nigeria, we are looking forward to seeing you When next we extend our invitation to you for the 32nd Inaugural Lecture. Until then, this is wishing you a safe trip back to your respective destination. My name is Ambrose Bernard Gowon, and it's bye-bye.